Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're really taking on one of the most complex, maybe most scrutinized figures out there, Elon Musk.
Definitely complex.
We've got a pile of sources, memoirs, interviews, some deep dives from journalists, and our goal today isn't just to rehash headlines. We want to get into the roots of his drive, his volatility, maybe even his strategic thinking.
Exactly. We're trying to connect the dots, The sources paint this picture of a, frankly, intensely traumatic childhood. And the idea is to see how that might connect to his, let's say, relentless and often conflict-heavy approach to business, moving beyond the simple narratives.
And there's this immediate tension, isn't there, right from the start?
Oh, yeah. The sources lay it out clearly. On one hand, you have Musk, the hyper-rational engineer, the guy who actually created a literal 5-step algorithm for how to build things efficiently. Super logical.
Right.
But then on the other hand, he's described as this total drama magnet, someone whose actions often seem driven by, deep emotional reactions, volatility, a need for crisis almost.
It feels like a contradiction. How can one person be both?
Yeah.
The precise machine and this chaotic force. The sources really point towards his early life, that South African upbringing, as the forge for this. He's that crazy enough to think they can change the world type, but yeah, that crazy seems like it came at a huge personal cost.
It really seems so. You have to start 1980s South Africa to even begin to understand. It wasn't just tough. The level of violence described is something else.
Like the Veld School.
Exactly. When he was 12, he got sent to this thing called a Veld School. For anyone listening who doesn't know, these were basically paramilitary survival camps. Really brutal places, common back then.
And the way it's described,
yeah,
it's chilling. Sources call it a paramilitary Lord of the Flies.
Yeah.
Where bullying wasn't just, overlooked. It was almost encouraged, seen as building grit or something. And Elon, being smaller, more bookish, he was a prime target. Lost 10 pounds, suffered serious abuse.
And that's just the camp. The background radiation of violence in society was also incredibly high. I mean, there's this one really jarring detail. He and his brother, Kimball, as teenagers, apparently on their way to a concert, they had to literally walk through a pool of blood next to a dead man with a knife still in his head.
Oh, my God. Just wading through that as a teenager.
Imagine seeing that kind of raw, unfiltered horror. It must rewire a young brain somehow.
And then there was the specific personal violence, that horrific school beating.
Right. Kicked down concrete steps repeatedly. His face was beaten so badly it was described as a swollen ball of flesh. Couldn't even really see his eyes. Needed surgery decades later to fix his septum.
It's hard to even comprehend. Yeah. And then the reaction from his father, Elon Musk, after this beating, that seems absolutely pivotal.
It really does. Errol sounds like a character, charismatic, drove a Rolls Royce, but also practiced this extremely stern, streetwise autocracy, as one source puts it. Very controlling, very harsh.
And when Elon comes home from the hospital, beaten, unrecognizable, what happens?
It's almost unbelievable. Errol sided with the bullies.
What?
Yeah. Made Elon stand there for an hour while he just yelled at him. Called him an idiot, worthless. Showed, and this is a direct quote from Kimball, zero compassion.
After that kind of trauma, to be told you're worthless by your own father.
It's devastating. And Errol himself didn't shy away from how tough he was. He apparently said later that his parenting made that Veld School seem quite tame.
Wow.
And he even seemed sort of proud that Elon learned that same stern autocracy and applied it later to himself and, to others.
So, okay. You survived that kind of childhood, constant conflict, violence, topped off with your father basically telling you you're nothing. What's the psychological impact?
His first wife, Justine, she had a really insightful take. She said he developed an emotional shut-off valve.
A shut-off valve?
Yeah. Like, if feeling things is just constant pain, you learn to switch it off, you build a wall.
Which would make you seem callous, maybe.
Exactly. Callous, detached. But here's the twist, the connection to innovation. If you shut off the part that feels hurt or empathy, you also learn to shut down fear.
So shutting down fear. Wait, isn't fear kind of necessary? Like for a CEO? Fear of failure, fear of losing money, fear of making enemies. Don't you need those breaks? Otherwise, wouldn't you just crash?
That's the paradox, isn't it? For most people, yes, fear is a crucial break. It prevents catastrophic risks. But if you're Musk and you've somehow surgically removed that fear response through trauma.
Then you can take risks others wouldn't dream of.
Precisely. You become a risk-seeking innovator. Normal emotional guardrails, aversion to conflict, fear of ruin, they just aren't there in the same way. It allows for incredible speed and tolerance for extreme situations. He can handle shocks that would just break most people.
Okay, that clicks. The lack of fear fuels the operational style. But where did he channel all this intensity? He obviously found refuge somewhere.
Absolutely. If the outside world was pain, the inner world of books became his escape. He talks about hitting this adolescent existential crisis. Religion, science, nothing answered the big stuff for him. The why are we here kind of questions.
That sounds like a recipe for depression.
And he apparently did get depressed. But literature, specifically science fiction, gave him a kind of framework. Two huge influences always come up. Isaac Asimov's Foundation series.
Right, the psychohistory guiding humanity's future.
Yep, you can see the direct line to SpaceX there. But the other one is maybe more surprising. Douglas Adams' The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Hitchhiker's Guide. The comedy, how does that fit?
He said it explicitly. He said it was so amazingly funny that it actually helped me out of my existential depression.
Huh. But Hitchhiker's Guide is all about the universe being absurd and meaningless.
Right.
The answer is 42. How is that helpful for depression?
Think about it. If the book convinces you the universe is fundamentally indifferent, that searching for some preordained meaning is pointless.
So you stop agonizing over finding it.
Exactly. Adams basically gave him permission to stop looking for meaning out there and start focusing on creating meaning for humanity. If the universe doesn't care, well, then it's up to us. And for him, that meant, ensuring the survival of consciousness, becoming multiplanetary.
Taking sci-fi concepts and making them literal life missions. And that clearly feeds into this tolerance for, or even need for, high stakes, like Peter Thiel observed.
Right. Thiel said Elon wants risk for its own sake. That he seems addicted to it.
An addiction to risk.
And maybe an addiction to chaos, too. His brother Kimball calls him a drama magnet, says he thrives on crisis, on these insane work surges, gets physically sick from the strain sometimes, but it also energizes him. It's like he needs the pressure cooker.
Which connects to how his brain is wired, doesn't it? This literal interpretation of things, the social awkwardness. His mom, May, mentioned the Asperger's connection.
Yeah, she confirmed he says he has Asperger's, which is often used for a form of autism spectrum disorder, but she also noted he was never actually diagnosed as a kid.
But it fits, right? Taking things literally.
It does seem to fit his preference for the precision of engineering and code. Those fields have clear rules, unlike ambiguous human interaction. He struggles with subtle social cues.
Which might explain why he sometimes comes across as, well, blunt.
The sources are pretty direct about it. They acknowledge he seems to lack the usual receptors for everyday kindness and warmth, doesn't seem driven by a need to be liked. One source flat out concludes he could be an asshole.
Oh, yeah.
And this is important, the same sources also say he's deeply emotional about his own kids, about their survival and well-being. So it's not a total absence of emotion. It's specific.
Okay, so we have the trauma shutdown, the intellectual drive from sci-fi, the specific brain wiring. How does all that get weaponized, basically, into a business strategy?
Competition seems key. He loved strategy games, Civilization, the Battle of Polytopia, games about resource management, tactical thinking, winning.
And didn't he say something about being wired for war?
He did. Told a friend that right after a gaming session. And it wasn't just talk. Look at how he played diplomacy.
Negotiation game.
Yeah. His strategy was a mix. Careful negotiation, building alliances, but also direct threats like, I will turn your allies against you and inflict pain on you. That's pretty much his business playbook too, isn't it? Business is warfare.
It definitely informed his early management style.
Yeah.
Zip 2 sounds like a nightmare for anyone wanting balance.
Totally. Contemptuous of work-life balance, just relentless drive. The only breaks allowed were apparently for intense competitive video game sessions. Even relaxation was combat.
And that need to dominate. It's personal, too.
Wow.
A story about his wedding.
Oh, the alpha comment. Yeah. Whispering to Justine, his first wife, during their wedding dance, I am the alpha in this relationship. It's revealing.
It paints a picture of someone who doesn't just tolerate risk, but maybe amplifies it.
That's how colleagues saw him, especially around PayPal. Most entrepreneurs try to mitigate risk. Musk seemed to actively court it, amplify it. The McLaren crash is often used as a metaphor for this.
Right, crashing that supercar with Thiel in the car. He apparently admitted it showed Thiel he was unafraid of risks.
Unafraid? Or maybe just wired differently about consequence? It seemed like a physical manifestation of his business approach, push everything to the Absolute limit, even if it means flirting with disaster.
But you can't sustain pure chaos forever.
Oh, right.
Especially not when you're building rockets and complex cars. There has to be some structure underneath.
And there is. Or rather, he developed one. This seems to be the rational counterweight to the emotional chaos. His very clear, very logical 5-step algorithm for innovation and manufacturing.
Okay, let's break down this algorithm because this feels like the other Elon,
Yeah.
the hyper-rational engineer. Step 1.
Step 1. Question every requirement. Assume every requirement someone gives you is potentially dumb. The only things you can't question are the laws of physics. Everything else is on the table.
Step 2?
Delete. Delete any part or process you possibly can. He's hardcore about this. Says if you don't end up having to add back at least 10% of the stuff you deleted, you didn't delete nearly enough.
Wow, okay. Aggressive deletion. Then step 3.
Simplify and optimize. But, and this is critical only after you've deleted, don't waste time optimizing something that shouldn't exist in the first place. Simplify what's left.
Makes sense. Avoid polishing unnecessary parts. Step 4.
Accelerate cycle time. Make the process faster. But again, only after you've questioned, deleted, and simplified. Get the core right, then speed it up.
And the final step, step 5.
Automate. And he emphasizes that this is absolutely the last step. He learned that the hard way with the early Tesla battery line, the whole alien dreadnought idea. He admitted he made a huge mistake trying to automate everything too soon before the process itself was properly questioned and simplified.
This is a great example of this algorithm in action, right, with Tesla batteries.
Yeah, the fiberglass strips, small strips were being glued onto battery packs. He asks the engineers, why are we doing this? They say, oh, the noise reduction team needs it.
Okay.
So he goes to the noise team, why these strips? They say, the engineering team needs it for fire safety. Total circular logic. Nobody actually knew why it was a requirement.
So what did he do?
Ordered tests. Found out the strips made basically zero difference to noise or safety. Requirement deleted. Boom. That's the algorithm in action, cutting through bureaucratic inertia that just builds up in most places.
Okay, so wrapping this up for you, the listener.
Yeah.
We've seen this landscape of, frankly, incredible trauma leading to this risk addiction, this almost philosophical drive fueled by sci-fi, and this incredibly intense, sometimes brutal management style that paradoxically also relies on super rational, cold 5-step process. He's a package deal, you know?
You really can't seem to separate the parts. The genius seems intertwined with the drama, the conflict.
Which brings us back to that core question, the ethical one. People who work closely with him, like Michael Marks, the VC, they wrestled with this.
They really did. Does the world need this kind of extreme, unfiltered personality, the asshole component, as the sources bluntly put it, to get moonshots like SpaceX or Tesla done? Is that the price of admission for radical innovation?
Marx kind of landed on a pragmatic, maybe uncomfortable conclusion, didn't he?
Yeah. He basically said, look, if the price the world pays for this kind of accomplishment is a real asshole doing it, well, it's probably a price worth paying. It's a snark calculation. Utilitarian.
And a lot of people around Musk seem to have implicitly made that same bargain to keep up with the pace he sets.
It seems predicated on the idea that maybe only this specific volatile combination of traits can generate the sheer force of will needed for something like colonizing Mars, that maybe normal leadership just wouldn't cut it.
Which leaves us with a final thought for you to chew on. We've heard repeatedly that Musk is drawn to crisis, thrives on it. He's a drama magnet.
Right. Compelled by it, maybe even creates it sometimes.
So if he has this tendency to generate the very storms that he seems to need to operate at peak intensity, what does that pattern mean for the future of these huge, world-altering companies he runs?
If that manic urgency, that crisis mode is his default, does he always need an enemy, a fight, a near-death experience for the company to keep him engaged at that level?
Will the drama magnet always need to manufacture a crisis? That feeling of existential urgency just to maintain the momentum needed for, say, Mars? And if that's the case, what are the long-term costs of running everything in perpetual conflict mode? Not just financial costs, but human costs, stability costs.
Yeah, can sustainable long-term progress actually happen if the leader requires constant self-generated warfare to function?
It's a big question.
Definitely something to think about next time you see a headline. Until our next deep dive, keep digging.